Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kelly Goodlett. She is the police officer that lied in order to get a search warrant for Breonna Taylor, which led to her death, and then attempted to cover the whole thing up. I do not feel sorry for this woman. She deserves nothing short of the rest of her life behind bars, as far as I'm concerned. And we know, they got to figure out a way to get black men and women to the polls. So they're conveniently bringing this up just a few months before the midterms. We're not being fooled by this. And, policing is what it is. It came out of slavery, and they still run around here acting like it came out of slavery. So, ex Louisville detective pled guilty to falsifying search warrant that led to the death of Breonna Taylor and then attempted to cover it up. So, ladies and gentlemen, a former Louisville detective pled guilty in federal court on Tuesday to helping falsify a search warrant that led to the killing, the murder of Breonna Taylor, a black woman whose death fueled a wave of protest over police violence against, it says, people of color. You know how they are, y'all. You know how they do in America. Kelly Goodlett, 35, entered her plea before the U.S. District Court Judge Rebecca Grady Jennings. And this was in federal court in Louisville, Kentucky. This is according to the New York Times. Goodlett was one of four former Louisville Metro Police officers um, charged with, remember, the U.S. Department of Justice that does absolutely nothing for the black community, decided to conveniently get up at this moment and charge these four officers for their involvement in the 2020 raid that, led to the murder of Breonna Taylor in her own home. Now, we can never, ever forget Daniel Cameron in this whole thing. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to make Daniel Cameron look even worse. You now got an officer that pled guilty to falsifying information in order to get a search warrant. He did not even want to charge these officers. He was willing to let them walk around and act as if nothing happened. So, when you hear these officers plead guilty, never forget who was trying to cover this whole thing up. I hope he never gets to live it down forever. So the charges represented the Justice Department's latest attempt to crack down on the abuses and racial disparities in policing, following a series of high profile police killings of Black Americans across the country. Yes. And it's so convenient. Every media news outlet know that Black men and women in America are wrongly being murdered by the police department, and you won't do anything beyond reporting on it. The Justice Department sure haven't done a thing to deal with it. Joe Biden won't deal with it. He wants to come after a bunch of people were killed in Buffalo, New York, and he just don't want to do anything beyond bowing his head and praying with people. And who the hell wants that from him? Seriously. Until they do something about it, all of this yammering is a bunch of nothing. It's a bunch of nothing. You know why this woman lied to get a search warrant against Breonna Taylor? Because she knows in this system, lying against Black men and women is easy. It's easy. And the system is rigged up to believe people like her. It's all rigged up. So 26-year-old Taylor was an emergency medical technician was asleep with her boyfriend on March 13th, 2020, when police conducted an illegal no knock raid and burst into her apartment. And you know what? If they weren't guilty of what they did, why did they conveniently get rid of the no knock warrant after they murdered Breonna Taylor, if it was so right to do? This is just like we never heard another thing about that counterfeit $20 bill that George Floyd allegedly had. It hasn't come up in any trial so far, and it won't. Taylor's boyfriend fired once at what he believed were intruders. Three police officers responded with 32 shots. 32 shots, six of which struck Taylor, murdering her. Goodlett and a fellow officer, also a former officer, Joshua James, met days after the shooting in a garage where they agreed on a false story to cover for the false evidence they had submitted to justify the botch raid. Prosecutors say, boy, these cops are dirty. You need wicked police. Do anybody need wicked police? I don't know anybody that does. But isn't it so funny how these folks, these same people that cheer the police on for doing things to us, they want to defund the FBI. And how come Joe Biden hasn't come out and say we shouldn't be saying don't say defund the FBI like he said that about the police? See, when all of that came up about the police, he was in the forefront telling you you can't defund them. How come he's not doing the same thing when these folks are yammering about defunding the FBI? Big difference, isn't it?